Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the Online Series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're playing a couple more games with the tournament-winning YVELTAL team I featured in the last episode, which I've linked down in the description below. This is a team built by Joe UX9, so huge thank you to Joe for the team, and in the last episode, YVELTAL didn't really get to shine as much as I wanted it to, so I'm hoping that it can come out and put on some bigger performances in this episode. But yeah, I appreciate you all as always for watching. We are obviously finishing up the year, and it has been quite a year of content, so thank you so much for sticking along with me throughout this journey. I know right now is an interesting time for content since Series 11 is maybe not the most exciting, so for all of you that continue to come out and watch, I really do appreciate it. And we have another month of Series 11 in January, so I'll probably do a mix of Series 11 and continue to do BDSP stuff. I'm honestly more interested in just fun battles in BDSP and exploring teams there, so continue to do a mix of those, and then once Series 12 rolls around, I think it should be a really exciting time. So thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what your favorite video of mine from this year was as we finish up this year. So yeah, let's get started. All right, getting into this one, and it's a Groudon team. I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen Groudon, so that's pretty cool. YVELTAL, I would say, generally has a pretty interesting matchup here. It's mainly the Thunderous I'm worried about, as you can obviously deal super effective damage into YVELTAL. Indeedee is also interesting. I can't Thunder Wave nearly as easily in this game, and even without it, it's like I can't Thunder Wave two of their main Pokemon in Thunderous and Groudon, but I think Grimmsnarl is still worth bringing here because screen support is really valuable. So the main thing here is who to drop. Torkoal is actually an interesting consideration. It's not good into like Groudon, but it's actually not bad into Venusaur, Thundurus, and Entei. Especially if I can get a Yawn off into a Dynamax Thundurus, for example. I do think I should ideally cover for Max Thundurus right from the start of the game. So leading Grimmsnarl is okay, because I can set up a Reflect. And this is where like leading Torkoal is actually intriguing to me, because I can Reflect into a Yawn, for example, and then just go from there. The alternative is just leading Venusaur. I'm just trying to think from my opponent's perspective what they want to bring. Probably drop Indeedee. I feel like it's not worth it, but all of their other Pokemon are really strong. I don't think I love Incin here. I want YVELTAL. Okay, I'm actually going to try this. Grim with Venusaur and YVELTAL and Landorus. I know this seems a little bit weird because I'm bringing, first of all, two Pokemon that want to Dynamax in Landorus and Venusaur, and I'm not bringing my Torkoal. But the idea behind this lead is that Venusaur is really flexible with this team. I can either just max it immediately, for example, if my opponent leads Groudon, or I can just click Sleep Powder with it. And with the Kova Berry, if my opponent leads Thundurus, I can just go for Sleep Powder on you on turn 1. So they are going to go with Whimsicott and Thundurus, which I don't mind. This is a relatively free Reflect and a Sleep Powder turn 1, in my opinion. And there's not much you can really do to stop it, other than, I guess, taunting Venusaur. But here's the thing. The Thundurus is a lot less scary once Dynamax is over, so if I just start the game with a Reflect here, and I just go for a Sleep Powder, well, even if you taunt me, I should survive a Max Airstream, meaning that it'll take you 2 turns just to knock out my Venusaur. That's not Dynamax. 2 turns of your Dynamax, right? The only awkward thing is that I have to bring in Landorus, or the YVELTAL would probably have to be Landorus, and I probably would... Actually, I don't even know if I really need to Max Guard with Landorus, because I have the, because I have Reflect being set up here. So it's like activating Define isn't really that scary when Reflect is up, right? And it's like Intimidate, activating Define only allows them to get to +1. So it's not that bad. But the idea here is, yeah, by leading the Venusaur here, I'd also cover for any Groudon leads that they had. And Venusaur obviously completely demolishes Groudon. And they don't go for a taunt, yeah. So one other reason you'd go for Tailwind there is because I could switch Grimmsnarl out into Torkoal and then just go for a Sleep Powder, so you also have to respect that option. So the flexibility I have here on turn 1 is really nice. And they actually Airstream in a Grimmsnarl, which is a nice play. So let's see if they're Lumberry or not. Either way, though, I think this puts us in a fantastic position because we're already priming ourselves for a Landorus and or YVELTAL endgame sweep, essentially. And Sleep Powder does connect here. Honestly, even if we miss there, it would totally be fine, but now I think we're just in really good shape if they're not Lum. Oh, they actually are Lumberry. Very cool. Okay, so that's their counter against Sun, which makes a lot of sense. Very neat. Still fine. I'm just going to Light Screen here, and I'm just going to go for another Sleep Powder onto the Thundurus slot. I don't really care if we miss here, honestly. My goal is to just stall out Thundurus' Dynamax right now. Oh, they actually are switcheroo. Wow. I was thinking about what item it might be here. It's Iron Ball. Okay. So that does get rid of my Koba Berry, and I'm thinking because of that, maybe Max Airstream actually knocks us out, which would be pretty scary here. So they had all the techs here. Like, is that enough to KO us? It is. They had Switcheroo with Iron Ball on Whimsicott, as well as Lumberry Thundurus. It's not exactly the most common combination, but it's pretty cool to see. Okay. I think it's fine to just go into Landorus here, honestly. Yeah. I'm not KOing Thundurus here anyway. They've Tailwinded, but the thing is, I can set myself up for like a late game sweep. Now, here I can Max Guard with the Landorus to stop a turn of their Defiant Max Airstreaming. But the thing is, they're not Life Orbed, and we have Reflect Up, so I don't even know if I'm that scared of this Thundurus, honestly. So with 2 turns of Tailwind left here, I think one thing I can do here is just go for... actually, none of my attacks here are super useful. It actually might be, like, just Max Rockfall and Spirit Break into the Thundurus slot here. If you're my opponent, what do? You switcheroo, right? You know, actually, what I don't mind, switching Landorus out into Yveltal to give that a speed boost, Dynamaxing here, and then just Airstreaming into the Whimsicott slot. I don't think Life Orb Max Rockfall KOs the Thundurus here anyway, and I don't mind taking a Max Airstream on my Landorus slot. I guess there's a chance they Max Airstream the Grim slot, which goes into Yveltal, so that could be a little bit scary, but with Reflect Up, once again, we should survive, and Whimsicott actually switches out, which is okay with me. They're going to go into Groudon. Okay. Now, the other idea behind switching in Yveltal here is to give it a speed boost. I like their switch out into Groudon here because they're basically trying to conserve their Tailwind and set up another Tailwind in this endgame, which I think is pretty smart. Okay, so we're going to bring in Yveltal right now. Yeah, they had all the techs here. Like, I Lumberry plus Switcheroo, that is, like, not a common combination whatsoever. Especially Switcheroo Iron Ball. Normally, Eject Button is what I'd expect on the Whimsicott. So, yeah. This is one in which if they're either just standard Whimsicott or non-Lum Thundurus, we like are in such a good position after turn 1. But even after all that, like I still think we're in okay shape. Just not as, good as we would have hoped for. There's Airstream. Yep, they target Landorus. And yeah, with Reflect Up right now, they just really don't do that much damage even with Defiance. So this puts us in a pretty nice spot. They only have 1 more turn of Tailwind left, and I have 2 extra turns of Dynamax relative to them. I also get a big Life Orb Max Airstream off here into the Groudon. Let's see how well it takes that. Pretty well, actually. And my Yveltal, unfortunately, can't protect right now, so that's like the one awkward thing. But we can start basically picking up one-hit KOs across the board. Now your Dynamax ends. You can obviously Wild Charge into my Yveltal. I've got Sucker Punch with this thing. And I can boost my speed up again. So one thing that's interesting here is going for Foul Play into the Thundurus, and then just Max Airstreaming into the Groudon. Because I think Foul Play might actually just KO Thundurus with them having an attack boost, and even if it doesn't, Sucker Punch can finish it off. So then the big question here is, like, what is my opponent's final Pokemon? But yeah, I think Yveltal's in a nice spot right now. Cool text from my opponent, though. You can see how anti-Venusaur they are, like, which is smart, right? Like, basically, when you run small, like, item changes or move changes like that, it gives you the ability to hard counter certain things that otherwise normally would have a really good matchup against you, right? So, like, I came into this thinking, wow, Venusaur is amazing here. Like, we're in such a good spot. If we hit the Sleep Powder, we just win the game, but that obviously was not exactly the case. Okay, so they're going to Wild Charge an Yveltal. My other question here is, how fast is your Groudon? They just go for Rock Slide. I think we survive, right? Okay, that was dangerously close, though. I'm just nervous about Yveltal flinching now. If we flinch, that could be a little bit awkward, but we get the knockout here with the Airstream, which is good. And I thought Yveltal would survive there, but it was a little bit too close for comfort. And if they had a... Yeah. Like, if we flinch here, if they crit there, all of that could have been pretty bad. So let's see if we avoid a flinch. No flinch. Okay, nice. So we get the Foul Play off. And that's a KO. Beautiful. Well done, Yveltal. Yeah, so the main thing about this Yveltal is, like, it's just not a very good max option, right? Like, because your best moves are, like, you have so much more utility from all of your non-max moves, like, whereas, like, Yveltal, it's only Dark and Flying, right? So it's, like, maxing, you're already not doing that much damage, and then you lose the side effects of all of these, like, fantastic moves that you otherwise have. It's going to be Whimsicott and Entei for my opponent in this endgame. Okay, we're at +2 speed, Tailwind's over, so they have to Tailwind and probably Sacred Fire, but even if you Sacred Fire or Eruption, I don't think you pick up a KO because we have screens up, both screens up. So in this position, I am just going to click Oblivion Wing into the Whimsicott slot. Oh, actually, I think I like Sucker Punching more here, right? Because it reduces Eruption damage output. Yeah. I'm down for that. And then I'm also down for... would I rather Quake or Rockfall here? I don't mind Rockfall because it's free residual damage onto Whimsicott. Okay, they don't protect Entei, perfect. Even if they protect it, the best you could do is maybe Moonblast. There's Tailwind. No problem. So it's either Eruption or Sacred Fire, but I think we survive either. And it's Eruption. Beautiful. Yeah. And honestly, if we didn't go for Sucker Punch there, maybe we don't survive the Eruption, so that's just another reason to go for it, right? So YVELTAL did exactly what I wanted to in this game, right? Like, we can't lead it because it's so weak into Thunderous, and like, the thing is, yes, with YVELTAL, you can bait your opponent into going for Max Lightning onto it, but the thing is that a lot of opponents are just going to be smart and not bother going for a Max Lightning, and they're just going to Max Airstream, right? So if I switch YVELTAL into Landorus, and then they just Max Airstream me as I activate Defiant, I probably just lose there immediately. So it's just not worth it. But the good thing is, you know, like, even though my opponent had Lumberry and had the Trick Iron Ball, we were still in an okay spot. The main thing in this game, the pivotal turn, was the turn in which my YVELTAL survived, and we just picked up a double KO. That could have been pretty scary, because if we flinch there or get crit, or they just maybe get higher damage rolls, I think we most likely lose the game from that position. So, feels kind of bad to be in that spot. And this game's actually not even over by any means, right? But I think now what I can do is... we still got Light Screen up. We're at +2 speed. I don't mind going for Thunder Wave here onto the Whimsicott slot and going for a Fly. Actually, is it better to just Rock Slide here? No, I like Fly. I don't think Whimsicott's going to have Protect in this position. But we can miss Thunder Wave and Fly right now. But Thunder Wave hits, and that should be enough, I think. Because even if we miss... well, maybe Whimsicott did target Grimmsnarl here with Moonblast. But we have Light Screen, so I think we should survive a Moonblast anyway. Okay, there's Fly. And they Moonblast into us. Perfect. Great. That should be game over. Well, you're still faster than me here. How many turns of Light Screen? 2 turns of Tailwind. We still have 3 turns of Light Screen, which is good. So right now, they need to hope for a miss and then hope for Moonblast to KO Grimm. And even with the miss, I'm not sure... yeah, they actually just end up forfeiting. I think they could have played it out for one more turn because Fly can miss there. So... your win con is for me to miss a bunch of attacks and for Moonblast to then KO the Grimmsnarl, and then it's a 1v1, and then you hope for me to miss my Rock Slide or my Fly, essentially. But, yeah. Either way, though, I'm really happy about YVELTAL's performance there. Like, Foul Play just KOing the Thunderous there was really nice, and then also having the Sucker Punch to reduce the damage output from Entei. So, I think the key thing about YVELTAL, what makes it really interesting is, you know, a lot of restricted Pokemon in Series 11 are really good Dynamax options, right? For example, things like Kyogre or Calyrex, like these are Pokemon that are both good as max and non-max options. With YVELTAL, I mean, you can max with it, but I do think Landorus and Venusaur are such stronger max options. And the other thing is when you max with YVELTAL with this team, it means you give up maxing something like Landorus or Venusaur, which means then, like, it feels like your team generally is relying on a little bit less, like, significant damage output and consistent damage output. That's not to say that you never max YVELTAL. In the right matchup, right, if they're just really weak to Dark and Flying, they don't have any resistances to it, then you can boost up your speed. For example, max YVELTAL with regular Landorus, max Airstream into Life Orb Earthquakes are really powerful as well. But I think this game shows why YVELTAL can often be better as a non-max option because, you know, if I just bring it early on, I'm just so weak into Thunderous and I have no answer to it. And that's exactly why my opponent led it as well, right? So we wanted to make sure that we just didn't get crushed by the Thunderous early on. It could have been pretty scary because my opponent could have actually just gone for a Trick onto Venusaur and max Airstream turn 1, or Switcheroo, I should say. So the fact that they didn't was actually super good for us because I think, yeah, it bought us an extra turn, and just that extra turn meant like we got to stall out one more turn of their Dynamax, which was really good. So, yeah, let's just look for the next one. All right, next game here, and it is a classic Zacian Sun team. Okay, our teams are actually pretty similar with the Torkoal, Venusaur, Grimmsnarl, Landorus core, but they've got Zacian. And Charizard. This one's interesting, because YVELTAL's not bad, but it's, like, so weak into Zacian, and with Zacian, I almost always want to bring both Instant and Landorus, and Grimmsnarl for screens is always so valuable. I also like Grimmsnarl a lot here, because I can Thunder Wave most of my opponent's primary attackers, which is valuable. This feels like a really volatile matchup, which scares me in many ways. I think Landorus is by far our best Pokemon, but they have a lot of things that scare me, right? Like, you could just go with Torkoal Charizard and just Wildfire, for example. So, I like leading Grimmsnarl here because I think setting up screens and or Thunder Waving is really valuable. Yveltal is still intriguing to me. Like, I'm actually thinking we bring Yveltal with Landorus and Incin in the back. You could make a very good argument for dropping Yveltal in this one and then bringing Venusaur instead, I think, because Venusaur takes advantage of their Sun, pressures them with Sleep Powder, and then is also really good into Zacian thanks to us having the Weather Ball. Torkoal I don't love because it gets one-shot by a lot of my opponent's Pokemon if they're Dynamaxed. So I think the main adjustment you can make in this game is not bringing Yveltal, but I do think Yveltal has some utility for us here because they do have a lot of special attackers in Venusaur, Charizard, and potentially Torkoal as well. And I have Thunder Wave. If I didn't have Thunder Wave on the Grimmsnarl, I don't think I'd bring Yveltal. But Thunder Wave alone means I can paralyze something like Charizard and then just Snarl it immediately as well. And if we can slow down their Dynamax option and reduce their damage output significantly, I'd say that's really good for us. So they're going to lead with Grimm and Charizard, which I'm okay with. So turn 1, I basically have to debate whether or not I want to just go for a Light Screen or a Thunder Wave instead. Because I could miss Snarl, but I could also miss Thunder Wave. If you're my opponent, you could consider switching out the Grimmsnarl out into Torkoal right now and just going for a G-Max Wildfire immediately. I think I like Thunder Wave because if I paralyze this Charizard, it sets up the path for Landorus in the endgame. So yeah, Thunder Wave into Snarl turn 1 feels okay to me. So, yeah, this is exactly why I wanted to lead Yveltal. The one thing that I didn't want to see as a lead is probably the Zacian. But if we saw Zacian, what I'd probably do is just Thunder Wave it and then switch Yveltal out into Incineroar, right? That way I bring you down to neutral attack immediately with the Intimidate from Incineroar, and I have Fake Out Pressure, and I paralyze you. So they're Dynamaxing here. If we hit this Thunder Wave and we hit the Snarl, the odds of that are pretty high, right? Both of those moves are relatively high accuracy. Yeah, if I miss the Snarl, it's honestly fine. It's mainly hitting this Thunder Wave. Because if we slow down this Charizard, then it paves the way for Landorus. Now, Lumberry Charizard is also a thing, so that could be my opponent's counter here. Okay, we don't miss Thunder Wave, so that's already a great start. Are you Lumberry? Nope. Amazing. And they reflect. Okay, beautiful. This is so good, right? Because, like, there's also the chance of full para on Charizard. If Charizard gets full para here, they're just in such a bad spot. But even if they don't, like... yeah, I would say this is an outstanding turn 1 for us. And this is what Yveltal was designed to do. Okay, they're not going to get parried, so they will get Wildfire off. Going to target Grimm here. But, yeah, you see, like, Charizard without the sun being up is just honestly a lot less scary. Okay, now what's interesting is what screen do I want to set up? They're not Life Orb either. Like, I've obviously have Reflect and Light Screen. But I can only set up one of the two most likely in this position. It feels like it should be Reflect because we know that they have the Zacian in the back. Whereas, like, yes, Charizard's scary, but I'm already snarling you anyway. So, yeah, I'm actually going to go for Reflect here. And then I'm going to opt for another Snarl in this position. I could have gone for Light Screen and then hope that, like, Grimmsnarl can take a Wildfire at -2. But then the thing is, the residual... just does so much damage anyway that I don't think it's worth it. Maybe they double up onto Yveltal here, and I'd be totally okay with that, because then I could just Oblivion Wing next turn, which would be sweet. We're gonna Wildfire. Okay, yep, this time into Yveltal, but with Assault Vest and then being at -2, that does so little damage for a max move. And then it's gonna be Spirit Break here into Grimm. Does that KO us? It does. Okay. The one thing to watch out for here is I haven't seen this Grimmsnarl's full moveset. I'm actually really nervous about them being Trick Full and Sense or Eject Button. Yeah, that is something we have to slightly respect, which is always scary. So I actually am a little bit hesitant about Dynamaxing here, but the thing is I could miss Rock Slide, which would be really bad, and they have Reflect up. That's also not good. Great time to go for an Oblivion Wing with Yveltal, though, that's for sure. They could have Fake Tears as well, but they're at -2, so you don't really scare me that much. Who's faster here? It's Landorus, for sure, yeah. Okay, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Dynamax, I'm going to max Airstream here and Oblivion Wing. I really like max Airstreaming here because it allows me to outspeed Zacian. Right? So it's like now I'm primed just to sweep with Landorus in this endgame. And then Yveltal's really good. Oh. That's an interesting switch, okay. So you reset the drops into what? Into Landorus, okay. So they didn't bring Torkoal in this game. I think that's a really good play by them. But the thing is, well, they have Reflect. I've got Incin in the back. Incin's going to be really good into Zacian, Charizard, and Landorus, because Intimidate's super valuable. The main thing is I don't really want to switch out Yveltal right now. Okay. Yeah, in my head, I just thought they definitely had to have Torkoal as the last one, so them not bringing it I think was really smart, but obviously costs them a lot of damage from Charizard, right? But it makes sense to drop Torkoal in this one, especially because I have a Torkoal on my team as well. So the annoying thing here is that they will end up getting both screens up, but this is why I wanted to set up Reflect, right? Like, they have Landorus in the back. It would be surprising if they had Venusaur, right, in the back in this one, because then it means you went with Venusaur and the Charizard as well as Grimmsnarl, meaning Zacian would be your final one, and it just doesn't make that much sense if they're not, you know, running attacks that can set up the Sun, and that's often, you know, the case. Okay, so I got the Oblivion Wing off here. I think Grimm should survive. Yep, that's fine though. At this point, we know it should be Zacian plus the Charizard in the back for my opponent, right? And the good thing with Wildfire is I'm not taking that much of Landorus, and then Yveltal can just consistently heal it back up with our Oblivion Wings. The nice thing for my opponent right now is he has some really good switch-ins, right? Like, do I go for another Max Airstream? Do I Max Quake? Charizard's not that scary in terms of damage output here. What I could also do is Airstream and Foul Play the Landorus slot. But I think I want to keep healing up with Yveltal, ideally. The other thing to consider is the number of max turns I have, right? Because ideally we get Zacian. I don't have a super safe play here. Like, Airstream always works into Grimm here. I just don't want him switching a Charizard and have, like, me waste an attack completely. So I will just Airstream an Oblivion Wing here, I think. I really like that Charizard switch by them. I think that was really well done. Okay, they're not going to switch. That's fine. Good. Unique scenario here where I could have intentionally not knocked out Grimmsnarl to leave it on the field and, like, have it be relatively useless for my opponent, but I do think Spirit Break is still kind of scary damage-wise here, so I just want to respect that as an offensive option from their end. And while I would normally contemplate Foul Play, because of Wildfire being up right now, I'd rather just heal up with Yveltal and, like, sustain with this for a little bit longer, ideally. That looks like Assault Vest Landorus to me. They obviously already have Light Screen up, but... Let's see, Rock Slide? Yep. Okay. Pretty good damage into Yveltal. The good thing is that we have one more max turn here, which I think gives us a lot of utility. So let's see. That's going to be Charizard coming back out. I think with Charizard coming back out and with Landorus, this Landorus should be AV, right? Because I have Incineroar in the back, like, Incin and Landorus have a pretty good matchup into my opponent Zacian, so here, what I don't mind going for is just Max Airstream into Landorus and Foul Play into it. The fear here is that Landorus can switch out right now into Zacian, but they don't. Perfect. And they protect Charizard even better. I think if we get the knockout onto Landorus here with this double up, it should just be game over, but I'm not confident on actually picking up this KO. I think we should. It's just scary because of, you know, Intimidate and then with Reflect, but I think Foul Play here should still finish off Landorus. We'll see. Even if it doesn't at this point, I still feel okay about our spot, but I think if we get the knockout, we should just immediately win the game because we have Incin as a pivot to switch into. Beautiful. Yeah, Yveltal was awesome for us today. And so now your last one's going to be the Zacian. This game still isn't won yet, but I feel really good about our spot. Just trying to think how we can possibly lose at this point. Because I've obviously got Rock Slide on Landorus. And they protected Charizard, right? So, like, now you going for another protect is even harder. 4 turns of Reflect left. They are indeed dual screens with Light Clay. So, for example, here I could withdraw Landorus out into Incineroar. That gives me an Intimidate immediately. But... the only fear is, like, missing Rock Slide, essentially, right? Because I can't actually KO Charizard with Yveltal here. Okay, I think I'm going to Rock Slide here and then just switch Yveltal out into Incin. This way, even if I miss, I don't know if a Behemoth Blade KOs my Landorus because I Reflect up anyway. The thing is, I could switch Landorus out into Instant, but the problem with that is that I don't pressure with any damage there, and I ideally just want to take a knockout because I have one in front of me right now with this Charizard. Okay, perfect. They don't go for double, we hit, that should be game over then. Perfect. The other fear there was that they're like Charty Berry on the Charizard, but it's kind of rare. Hey. Yeah, they just Behemoth Blade. Perfect. Now it's a 2v1, but you're intimidated, and I have Reflect up, so it's going to be really hard for you to knock out the Incineroar, and I can just Flare Blitz you for a KO. Landorus actually even survives that impressively enough. Beautiful. So that makes this even easier, because what I can do now, let's see. -1 attack, they're neutral, they still have 2 turns of Reflect, so I can just Earthquake here. Oh, actually, I want to be a little bit careful about that, right? I think Protect here, going out into Yveltal is fine. Wait, I also have a Fake Out this turn, right? I just don't want to Earthquake myself, obviously, right now. I'm also just thinking, like, how we can maybe lose, potentially, if crits happen a lot, but I'm down to switch Landorus out into Yveltal here just to further intimidate them and Fake Out into Zacian. The other play here was just to switch my Instant out into Yveltal and Earthquake, but my fear there is then I Feign from Life Orb, and then my Yveltal also fails because your Zacian attack gets redirected into it, and then I lose if you just crit the Instant. But I think I lose to a crit either way right now. I don't really know how I play around the crit. But this makes decision making harder for them, right? Because now you just have to constantly make the right target as well. So I'm going to pivot Instant out into Landorus now. Yeah, because this is their last turn of Reflect, right? Yep. So Instant out into Landorus, and I don't mind just Oblivion Winging here to heal up. Now, if you knock out the Yveltal, I get... Like, I've just intimidated you so much. Actually, I like Sucker Punch more here, because it just gets me any amount of chip damage, and I think that amount of chip damage should ensure Flare Blitz KOs the Zacian. But this is a opportunity for Zacian to still come back. Like, this game is not over by any means. And they're going to Behemoth Blade into the Yveltal slot. Okay, it's fine. Like, I've intimidated them so much right now. I think their win con is just getting maybe not 1, but 2 crits. So this is the idea of just cycling through these intimidates. The only weird thing is, like, you know, getting rid of our speed boost. But because my Landorus was going to Feign to a Life Orb anyway, it didn't make too much sense in my head. Let's just double check the field state. Last turn to Reflect on my end. -2 for them. They're always going to Protect here. So I don't mind going for Fake Out and Fly in this position, because Zacian should Protect, meaning then we get a Life Orb Fly into a Flare Blitz. I think the thing is still basically whether or not they get a crit onto Incineroar with the Sacred Sword. And actually, it would be more interesting to not click Fly here, because 1, I could miss Fly, and 2, if I had clicked Rock Slide... Well, actually, if they don't Protect and Rock Slide happens, it's still the same scenario. So, yeah. Just trying to mitigate my odds here in this endgame, but I don't know if there was ever a way to win in which we avoid... Like, a 100% win con. It was always one that was very favorable for us, but one in which we still maybe lose to a critical hit. That's interesting. They've got sub... This is actually where Fly might be huge for us. I would think this actually breaks the sub with Life Orb, but let's see. Oh, it doesn't. Interesting. Okay. The thing is, you are at -2, so you're never KOing me, and Flare Blitz will just knock you out. So you're just going to keep subbing, right? And hope I take recoil damage. But the thing is, I think I do have to keep Flare Blitz. Oh, they just go for Sacred Sword. Okay. Yeah, that does nothing. Cool. But the thing is, do they survive a Flare Blitz? Because they had enough bulk to survive that Life Orb Fly. Okay, they don't. I think my opponent, because you had Substitute here, it's better to sub 3 times so that I take all this recoil from Flare Blitz and then go for Sacred Sword. I think that was their best bet. So I'm surprised they just went for Sacred Sword immediately, given that they had Substitute. Now, the key turn in this game, one thing that could have been better, right, is if the turn that I switched out the Landorus, I could have switched out Instant into Yveltal and just Earthquake. The reason I didn't go for that was because I was worried about my opponent just attacking in that position. So you survive the Earthquake, I faint from Life Orb, your Behemoth Blade KOs my YVELTAL, and then the endgame is Instant versus the Zacian, where I have less Intimidates onto it, and Reflect is still up, so it's easier for them to survive a Flare Blitz, and then they just Sacred Sword us. Now, granted, in that position, they'd have to make a right play in not protecting the Zacian there, but I was really worried about that. However, since they had sub here in this endgame, maybe they could have pulled it off if they just kept subbing. I'm not sure. Because I'd have to Flare Blitz for recoil, so yeah, I think in their shoes, the Sacred Sword was a little premature. And they actually maybe could have pulled off the win there if they kept subbing. And so then, since I didn't really consider the possibility of sub, I think it would have been smarter to just go for Earthquake earlier. Because I was trying to play around the crit the whole time, but I just didn't even respect the option of substitute. So it's like, with that, then maybe there's a chance they win without, like, this really crazy scenario in which they get, not even that crazy, but a scenario in which they get a crit. And they don't need to rely on a crit to win, maybe. It depends on how much recoil we keep taking from the Flare Blitzes. But yeah, that was really interesting. And yeah, it took a while for sub to come out there, but that was a really, really good move. Unfortunately for us, we still pull out the win. But because of that, because of the option I didn't consider, I just didn't consider earlier, it may have been better to just EQ. But yeah, either way, let's look for one final match with this team. Final one of the day, and it's Kyurem White. Is this just the Kyurem White team we used like a long time ago? I think that was the team built by Binja. Was Rotom Wash on that team? I don't remember it being on that team. Either way, really cool. Wow, I actually think we have an abysmal Kyurem White matchup because our main Pokemon in YVELTAL, Landorus, and Venus are all really weak to Kyurem. And it's also scary leading the Grim here because they can just lead like Instant Scizor and just fake out into like a Bullet Punch. But I also have to respect Whimsicott plus Kyurem. That's probably one of the scariest leads they can go with. How do I beat Whimsicott, Kyurem, as well as Instant Scizor as possible leads? I think with Instant Scizor, I just have Intimidate as a switch-in. So with this, I can Thunder Wave immediately. I wonder if that's not going to be Scarf Kyurem. It's got to be Life Orb, right? Wow, this Kyurem matchup is really rough. I don't know if I have safe plays to make here. Like, I think I might have to make some big predictions. Okay, Instant in the back, and then I don't know. Okay, so the idea here is that for Kyurem, you do struggle. Well, actually, you could just max Wormwood and everything. I didn't even think about that. Like, my fear is Hailstorm just one-shots like YVELTAL, Landorus, and Venusaur. Really cool stuff. And so, basically, the idea I have here is like, okay, if you Hailstorm, well, I can switch out into my Incineroar to take it, right? Yeah, they go with Whimsicott and Kyurem. There's so many approaches we could go for here. Like, turn 1, I lean towards just withdrawing YVELTAL out immediately into my Incineroar, but they could obviously just max Wormwind me. I think it's better to Light Screen rather than Thunder Wave turn 1, because they're going to Tailwind anyway. So Light Screen and switch out into Instant. But, like, there's so many ways my opponent can get around this, right? They could just max Hailstorm, Moonblast the Grimmsnarl slot. They could max Wormwind the YVELTAL slot. So, like, this is an example that you recognize it's a bad matchup, and you recognize I just don't have a safe play to make, essentially, right? And so as a result, you're going to have to go for some predictions. If they don't work out, that's fine. That's just part of Pokemon. But one element that's really key in VGC is, typically, like, I think one of the more consistent ways to play and approach the game is to play safe, as safe as possible until you can't, right? And right now I just can't. I don't have a play on turn 1 that I always come out of positive regardless of what my opponent goes for, right? If I just Thunder Wave the Kyurem or Light Screen Kyurem, well, Kyurem can just destroy my YVELTAL. I guess one interesting consideration is actually maxing YVELTAL. Ooh, Thunder Wave Kyurem max Airstream Whimsicott I think is actually kind of interesting, but I don't love that because I just don't deal that much damage with it anyway. But let's say you Hailstorm, I max Airstream, I get the knockout, and I get the paralysis on a Kyurem. That actually is not a terrible play. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So there's Tailwind. Yep. That's expected. Got light screen up. Now this next turn I can fake out Whimsicott. I also wonder if Whimsicott's Sash here because you're running Kyurem and it's obvious, like, often going to Hailstorm. Okay, they do Hailstorm, which is good. Okay, perfect. I got exactly what I needed out of turn 1. That's still so much damage, though. Wow. The other question is it valuable for us to set up a Reflect right now? Yep, it's Life Orb. Oh, man, I mean, the other thing is, like, do I switch out the Incineroar? Fake Out doesn't even provide me that much utility. Reflect is only really valuable against the Scizor. So, I like Thunder Wave here on a Kyurem for sure. I'm actually thinking about switching out into Landorus. Especially because if they I mean, you could just max Wormwind me here, I guess. And Instant's not that valuable. I think it's too risky to switch out. I don't think we need to make that read. I'm going to Thunderwave and Parting Shot here. Yeah. Actually, Flare Blitz might be better, but... I think I actually like Flare Blitz a little bit more, because I don't want Whimsicott setting up a second Tailwind up in this game. Alright, they Dazzling Gleam. Okay, that's a good thing we did switch out then. It covers for my switches quite nicely. And they get fully paired. That's really lucky. But realistically, in this matchup, if we want to win, we're gonna have to make a combination of good reads and get a little bit fortunate. So that's obviously a really big turn, but that's where like Thunder Wave is huge, right? Because I'm mainly going for speed control, but every single paralysis you get is obviously a huge deal. Okay. This is still such a weird spot to be in. I think I'm going to go into Yveltal here. I actually want to max Yveltal here. It would be a fitting end for our time with Yveltal. I just, like, my opponent's going to just Dazzling Gleam and presumably Hailstorm Yveltal. So the thing is, I could obviously just switch Yveltal out into Instant again. I wonder if my opponent maybe gets a little bit impatient and then just, like, tries to make a prediction around that. And, see, the thing is, you're at -1 special attack. There's still 2 turns of Tailwind, though. That's the problem, I think. So, I don't mind going for Spirit Break on a Kyurem and then switching this out into Incineroar. If you read it correctly, you know, kudos, but it's fine because the thing is... is it fine? My problem is that Whimsicott can now protect this next turn, allowing them to get us another Tailwind up in this game. Yeah. So it's another Gleam, I'm sure. Yep. I don't know. Could have been in position to just max Yveltal there. They do go for Hailstorm again, but maybe this is going on to Grim. Nope. Okay, amazing. We baited all the attacks out of Kyurem. That's exactly what I needed. If you're in my opponent's shoes, by the way, your most consistent play in a position like this is to click max Wormwind, but maybe they don't have it. I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't have it, but you want, you know, max Hailstorm, max Quake, Protect, and then typically Wormwind, I would think. Either way, though, I'm very glad about how this early game played out, because we were so Kyurem weak, and we actually weathered the early storm really well. So, quite pleased about that. Now you're at -2. Last turn of Tailwind. You see, this is my problem. They're going to get another Tailwind up, most likely, right? I guess I could always Fake Out and Spirit Break Kyurem, but Kyurem probably just protects here. Can I double up onto the Whimsicott instead? Oh, they don't protect. Wow. That's huge, because I think Spirit Break actually just KOs Kyurem. And if I knock out Kyurem, that just paves the way for either Yveltal or Landorus in this endgame. Amazing. Okay. Spirit Break comes out. Beautiful. Okay, we just eliminated the biggest threat to pretty much all of our team. And I haven't even Dynamax yet. So my opponent's remaining Pokemon. What's scariest? Rotom, Scizor. Scizor's not that scary in my opinion at this stage in the game. Nasty Plot Rotom can be a threat. That's actually probably the scariest thing, but okay, they bring in Scizor. That's totally okay with me. So I'm going to just Thunder Wave here and then switch Instant out into Landorus, I think. The other debate is to actually not bother making this switch. If you're my opponent, maybe you consider Bullet Punching me, right? Bullet Punch and just Dazzling Gleam. We have Light Screen up. I can take a Gleam. Yeah, Thunder Wave into Scizor, I think, and then switching out into Landorus is fine. The only reason I'm a little bit hesitant about this is because let's say my Landorus gets crit by a Bullet Punch and or a Dazzling Gleam. Like, Landorus is probably my best max option right now. But the reason I'm okay with this is because I think we can actually max Yveltal as well. Okay. Yep, there's Bullet Punch. Oh, okay, so they... Yep, there's the crit, though. Oh, it's not even a crit! Whoa. What? Wait, that did... so much damage? I mean, first of all, it's gotta be Choice Banded. I can't see it being anything else. Okay, now what do I want to do? I do think we max YVELTAL actually at this point in the game. Because what are my opponent's remaining Pokemon, and how do they handle YVELTAL? Rotom, Instant is, like, irrelevant damage-wise, so it's going to be Rotom or Urshifu, and I lean it towards it being Urshifu. I've still got 3 turns of Light Screen left. I'm going to Dynamax here. I'm going to max Airstream into the Whimsicott slot, and then... I don't mind switching out into Instant here. Is that the right play? I think I could also Protect Landorus here. That might be better. The reason I think Protect Landorus is better is because they could just Bullet Punch Dazzle right now to KO the Incineroar. Although I think if you're my opponent, you should Tailwind right now in this position. It's nice to finally max YVELTAL though. And this is why I was okay switching at Landorus, because I was like, even in the worst case where I take a lot of damage, YVELTAL is actually a mighty fine max option in this endgame. Might even be better than Landorus because it's so bulky, and I've eliminated the main threat to it in the Kyurem White at this point. So, where's max YVELTAL? Scizor's not that scary after these Intimidates, and unfortunately for them, they actually get paralyzed, although I think Gleam will KO us anyway. I hope that's the case, otherwise... Oh, it actually does not. I assume Bullet Punch would have KO'd Instant there. So, we definitely had some lucky full paras here. But in a matchup in which it's not favorable for us, you're going to need to get a little bit lucky and play well. And fortunately for us, we did get lucky. I don't think this full para matters at all, though, actually, honestly. It depends on what their final Pokemon is. I think Urshifu makes the most sense to me. But even if it were Urshifu, I think YVELTAL wins the 2v1 against Scizor and Urshifu. Since I can just max Airstream the Urshifu slot twice. Oh, and their last one was Instant, then yeah, okay. Then I think this game was always a wrap, even if Scizor knocks out Instant there. Because then what would happen is I would bring in Landorus, and then you'd be at -3 attack with the Scizor, so then I would just Protect, right? As you try to fake me out, and then just EQ. Yeah. We just try to KO Scizor right now, right? So I shall fake out the Scizor, and yeah, max Airstream it as well. Fake out Scizor, max Airstream. Landorus EQ wins the game for us at this point. Okay, there's fake out. We get a crit. They flinch. I think Instant being their last one made this endgame really difficult for them, regardless of what happened here. Oh, actually, Max Darkness was the play, right? Because it does more damage thanks to our ability, and I don't need the speed boost anyway. But I don't think it makes a difference in this game. Yeah, they just splits YVELTAL. Okay. But Max Darkness there actually probably would have just picked up the knockout. I should just go for it now, right? Might as well lower my opponent's special defense. So Max Darkness Scizor here, and then just Parting Shot. But since their last one was the Instant, they never had good damage output in this endgame. I think Urshifu and Rotom would have been infinitely more scary. But I think them bringing out the Instant makes sense because it is Intimidate value if I Dynamax Landorus, and it also can be valuable, especially if you're Safety Goggles, into Venusaur. And so they might have brought it to try to cover for the Venusaur option, which I think makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. In this game, we had the combination of, fortunately, like, never taking too much damage from the 3 turns of Dynamax from Kyurem, and then also being able to get a lucky full pair on 1 turn on Kyurem, which I think is a really big deal, because, for Kyurem, it's like every turn matters so much. Now, that also begs the question, maybe I should have just clicked Thunder Wave on turn 1, because then it's like, the odds of you attacking through 3 turns of full para in a row with Dynamax is not exactly amazing for you, right? It's a 75% chance to attack through just 1 time, and so the odds of you getting 3 attacks off consistently is, what, 3 cubed over 4 cubed? And so 27 over 64, if my math is correct, meaning like if we just need 1 full para to stall it out a little bit, that's what we ended up getting. Although we only had 2 turns, right? Because I didn't Thunder Wave on turn 1. So maybe I just go for T-Wave on turn 1 immediately, but I thought getting up Light Screen was valuable to just take less damage, but I don't know. Thunder Wave actually makes a lot of sense, because I don't know if Light Screen helps me survive these big attacks anyway, so might as well just try to go for a Paralysis. That might be slightly more optimal, but yeah. That last game is a good example of how, like, even if you have, what looks like a really bad matchup, you can win. You just have to start making a little bit more, make a couple more reads, and it's scary, right? Because then at that point, it doesn't feel like it's in my control. Had my opponent been going for Max Warwinds, for example, or made a really hard read, and, like, Max Quake YVELTAL as it switches out, it could have been a complete disaster for us, but fortunately, none of that happened. That's going to be it for this one, so thank you so much as always for watching. Thanks to JoeUX9 once again for the team. Check him out, linked in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. Alright, peace.